absolute complete garbage. Never try and do this when it's hot, because this thing got so hot and the breaker didn't trip. So we're at my customer's house and we're gonna be installing a receptacle for an electric vehicle charger, EV charger. I wanna walk through the entire process. We've done dozens and dozens of these. As always, please don't try this on your own. Make sure that you use a licensed electrician, someone who knows what they're doing and follows all the proper steps and gets the proper permits. The very first thing that we're gonna do is I wanna shed all the loads. So we wanna turn off every breaker. Paying attention, this breaker was off, so this one was actually a spare. We're not gonna need this one, so I'm pulling it out. So we wanna look and see which breakers are already in the off position so that we don't turn those ones back on. I don't know why it's off, so I don't know if a wire shorted out or something was going on, but just pay attention to what breakers are off before you shed all the load. This dryer breaker was already off, so we're gonna leave that one off when we turn the panel back on. So we just go through, we turn everything off first. All right, now that we have all the loads shed, now I wanna kill the main breaker. So just like that, and then I wanna double check it, get my meter out. This is the Fluke T5 1000. I've been using this one for about 17 years now. So we just wanna check, so we're gonna check right here. We're gonna go line to line, and I have 0 volts on it. And then I'm gonna go line to neutral and ground, right there. Line to neutral and ground. And then I also like to use my tick tracer right here, just as a double backup to make sure that everything's dead. Another thing I do sometimes, just to make sure that my tools are actually working, is what we call a live dead live test. So I just killed it. I'm gonna turn it back on, and I'm gonna make sure that my meter works. There we go. So I see that my meter's reading voltage right there. So now I'm gonna kill it again. And then I'm gonna check it one more time. And there we go. So if I go on, and then I go off, it's dead. So I know that I'm safe. So this is the back side of the panel now, and this is one edge, and the other edge is right here. You might see a little box like this on the back side of your panel. This is where the grounding electrode conductor is. So a ground wire that goes from the panel comes down here and it lands on the grounding electrode conductor, and that's usually a piece of rebar that actually goes down into the concrete footing, and that gives your electrical panel a reference to ground. So that doesn't matter so much in what we're doing, as long as we just make sure we don't hit that wire when we're drilling. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna come out the bottom of the panel with some flexible conduit, and then we're gonna poke out a little bit, and we're gonna put what's called an LB onto that flexible conduit. And we're gonna run over here, and we're gonna come up with some conduit, and we're gonna mount the EV charger receptacle right here. All right, so we've checked voltage. We know that we're dead now. And what we need to do is we need to figure out where we're gonna go into this panel. So I'm gonna actually, this one's already kind of knocked out. We're gonna utilize this one right here, this knockout. If you look here, this center knockout that's already kind of knocked out, that's a 1/2 inch. For the EV charger, I need a 3/4. So I need to get this knockout out as well. So what you do with this is you just work this thing, get these pieces out, and then we have to get this one out right here as well. So I just take a flathead screwdriver and just beat it. Beat it in a little bit like that. And there's no special magic to it. You just got to get this piece out. And then once you can get something on there to grab it, it should just come right out. So again, the most important thing here is to make sure that the panel is off. Do not mess around with this live. And that's why I always say use a licensed electrician. This is not really a task that you should try and take on yourself. So now that we have our hole open, I need to find exactly where this hole is so that we can go down and straight out. So to do that, I need to find a reference point that's the same on this side as it is on the inside of the garage. So I usually use the corner of the stucco or of the siding. So I'm gonna take my tape measure and put the end dead center of that hole right there. You see that? So we're going right there, and I'm gonna hold this with my finger, and then I'm gonna come out, and there's the edge of my stucco right there. So I'm looking at 41.5 inches. You see that? So 41.5 inches, 41.5 inches to this edge right here. So now we can take that and go on the inside. I have this plane right here. So then I take my tape measure right here and I line it up 41.5 inches. And that's gonna put me right there. That's where I need to be. So I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna come down. I want the conduit down low. The other thing that I always like to do is if there's a box, if there's something here in this area that I can open up, I wanna open it up. Now I can get my phone in there, or I can even get my camera scope and I can send it in there just to make sure that I'm not gonna hit anything when I drill through here. So if you don't have something that you can open up and look in, just make sure that when you drill it with your hole saw, that you go really careful and you don't shove the hole saw all the way in the wall there. You just wanna go a little bit in so that it just breaks through the drywall, and then you can get your finger in there and make sure you didn't hit anything. So here, I've already checked it and we're fine. So now I'm gonna find my spot and I'm gonna drill the hole. So this right here is called an LB. So we're gonna use an LB to come out, and I'm gonna have it go sideways this way. And then we're gonna go out the side here and up into the bottom of our EV charger receptacle box. It's gonna be FMC, or flexible metallic conduit, going up into the panel. What I wanna do is I need to make sure that whatever hole saw I use is big enough. I don't want this thing sticking off the wall like this, I want it in. The right size hole saw to do that is 1 3/8. So that's what we have right here. I'm gonna have links to all of these different tools and materials in the description if you need to pick them up. All right, so we have measured over, we know where we're going here. So now I'm gonna drill my hole. And like I was saying, you wanna go nice and easy. We don't wanna accidentally hit something behind the drywall here. So we're just gonna go nice and easy. As soon as it punctures through, I pull it out, pop that hole in, put my finger in here, and we're good to go. And so if you can see now, this fits perfectly into that hole where the LB can sit flush right on the drywall. So that's exactly what we want. We're still gonna do a little silicone around this just to make sure that no bugs or critters can get in or out of the walls. But yeah, we're good. All right, so the next part is I need to get my flexible conduit from inside the garage up into the panel. So I like to just use a little piece of solid wire. You can also use a fish tape. So what I do, because we lined up our hole nice and center, we used the center of the hole here with the edge of the stucco. I should be able to go pretty straight down and find that wire on the other side. So what I do is I put a little bit of a loop on the end in case I need to hook it. If it's back in the wall, I can grab this with another piece of wire. So fishing this down is easiest if you have 2 people. So Paul's on the inside over there and he's gonna hook it and pull it out. So it's coming down, Paul. So as you can see, we were able to get the wire right through the wall here. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our flex, and we wanna figure out what that measurement is from the bottom of the panel to this hole, and go just a little bit longer. So I know that it's just about this long right here. So with the flexible conduit, you just take it and break it open, pull it, use some tin snips, and just snip it. So you're just using that edge right there. I like to clean up these edges right here so that it's nice and good. And then we're gonna take what we call a Jake, or a flex connector. So what we wanna do is we wanna take the flex connector and just screw it in here. Wanna get it all the way into the flex, all the way where it needs to be, seated all the way down, just like that, okay? Take the lock ring off. So we wanna take this flex and we wanna slide it up over this wire right here. Now, when you're doing this, you wanna have somebody on the other side holding the wire so that we can slide this up and get that connector up into that hole that we knocked out in the bottom of the panel. So you'll see we're using the wire as a guide, and we're gonna shove it up. Go ahead. There it is. All right, you see it pop up in there? Hold it tight over there. So as I said, this is best with 2 people. Once that comes up and in, you can just get your lock ring and very carefully just get it on there until it's nice and tight. And then we just beat it even tighter. And there it is, it's locked in. The next step is take the lock ring off your next flex connector and then screw it in here. You wanna get it nice and tight on there so it doesn't come loose. And then we know that this is gonna be shoved into the wall. So we don't have a whole lot of space. We have about 3.5 inches because that's how wide the stud is. So if I take my finger and I kind of push this back, it's really tight right here. So I wanna cut a little bit of that off. So I'm gonna take my tin snips just like this. Give me about 2 more inches. 1 more probably. Because I don't wanna be fighting this thing to get in the wall. So that just comes off like that. I always like to clean up this edge right there. And then what we can do here is just screw this on. And then this is gonna sit nice and flush, just like that. All right, so before we run our conduit, we need to mount our junction box, the box that's gonna have the charging receptacle in it. We have 2 options here. One thing that I see all the time and is absolute complete garbage is when electricians or DIYers use just a simple 4-square box and a cover like this. Okay, this is not safe in my opinion. The reason why I say that, imagine you're in your garage and your kids are playing, or you're in the house and the kids are out here playing, or anybody's out here really, and you have a junction box with the receptacle wide open like that. They can very easily take a toy, take a penny, take anything and shove it in these, and they're gonna get really rocked by the shock that they're gonna get from this. A 240 volt blast here is not gonna be fun. This receptacle, especially for EV charging, needs to be protected, okay? So that's point number 1. What we like to use is this box by Midwest. I'm not sponsored by them, but this is what we use. I found that this thing works great. So when you buy it, it comes with a receptacle in here. This receptacle is garbage. This receptacle, the NEMA 1450 that you need for a car charger that you buy from Home Depot, Lowe's, or Amazon, is garbage. Do not use these, and do not use the one that comes in this RV box, okay? I see these melted, grayed out, blown up all the time because it's not meant to be used for 6 to 8 hours of continuous EV charging use. So I wanna show you right here, this is the Leviton. This is the one you do not wanna buy, okay? Right here on the wrapping, it says not recommended for electrical vehicle charging. Not recommended for electric vehicle charging. It's right there on the packaging. But yet, we have installers all over the place going and buying the cheapo $15 receptacle and then saying that, oh, I can come to your house, I'll only charge you $450 or $500 to put a receptacle in for you for your car charger. And then guess what? I get called. And I come show up to the house and I see that this thing blew up. Or the breaker melted because this thing got so hot and the breaker didn't trip. And now we have to replace the electrical panel. We gotta stop installing these. So if you're putting this in yourself, I'm gonna show you exactly the receptacle that you need to buy. This right here is what you want. This is the Hubble 9450A. Come in close, let me show you. I wanna show you guys the difference here. Look at this. This one's bigger. It also has a stainless steel bracket, and look how deep it is compared to the other one. This thing is made for EV charging, and on top of that, if you look really close right here, that is the symbol for EV charging. This receptacle right here is rated for EV charging. This is the one you need to be using. So don't go to Home Depot, don't go to Lowe's. Amazon does sell this online, and I'm gonna have a link in the description. Here's the NEMA 1450 receptacle that we need to put in here. If you look, this is not big enough. So I wanna show you exactly how we do this to get this one to fit inside here. So we take this apart first, get this out. We just wanna take the ground off so we can work with this nice and easy. So we got our setup right here. So we're gonna just take this one off, okay? Just like that. Now we have this knockout set right here. Most people are not gonna have this knockout set. Greenlee sells one that's like $2,000 or $3,000. They also have one, I think that's like $1,000. That's a ratcheting one. This one, $99 at Harbor Freight. This is an amazing hydraulic knockout set. So if you can pick one of these up, it's great. So let me show you how we do this. Okay, so we just need this hole a little bit bigger, and I don't have a knockout that's the exact size. So all we do is we just set this up a little bit, if you can see, a little bit over the edge there. And then I'm gonna look at the blade on this side right here to make sure I'm just a little bit over. Lock this down. Do it once. So then you just wanna do that all the way around 4 times to just get the corners. So there you go. It's cut out, it's nice and neat. We're good to go. So then what I do is I just line this up and I flip it over and I take a Sharpie, and these 4 holes are already tapped out for screws. So I just use a Sharpie and I mark all 4 holes, just like that, making sure it doesn't spin on you because you don't want it to be crooked in there. So push it right through. So then I just get this lined up perfectly. Tap that. Two. 3. And 4. Again, we line this up the right way. And I'm gonna do the first one first. These are actually 632, so I just blow them out with the 832 tap as well. Just like that. Get the first one lined up and get it installed. And then these other ones should line up or close enough, right? And then I take the 832 tap again. Run it through there, through there, and through there. And then we take 1, second screw, 3rd screw, and 4th screw. So now we're set. One thing that's really important, make sure that the ground is facing up. So this screw screws in right here. Sometimes I've done it and I accidentally put the receptacle upside down, and then you got to take it off and flip it over. So just make sure it's the right way. After that, I just pull this cover off right here. If you twist this up a little bit and push down, the whole cover will come right off. That way you can work with it nice and easy. So now, this is really critical. You don't want to use drywall anchors or zip-its or easy anchors, whatever you call them. You want to find a stud. So quick trick to find a stud, I just take my level and I just hold it nice and loose at the top here, and I just kind of go back and forth until the level right there. See that? It just grabbed a screw. So I know I have a stud right there. So I'll usually go and I'll try a second spot. Look at that. There's a second spot. So if you don't have a stud finder, I don't prefer stud finders anyways. It'll grab a screw right there and you know you're right on a stud. So we're good right there. So what we'll do is we'll find our height that we want. So our customer here wants the box at 48 inches to the bottom of the box. So we're gonna go right about there. So we just make our mark at 48, get it lined up, make sure we're on the stud, just like that. And we're just gonna drill our first one. So it's really helpful getting into these deep boxes to have an extension on here. So we got it lined up at 48 to the bottom of the box. And then hit it. Put your level up on top. Make sure you're nice and level. Then you want to hit your next one. There we go. So here's our charger. As I was saying, the ground is up. So right here is your ground, then you got your 2 hots and your neutral. So it's gonna go like this, right in here, and then this is gonna get mounted right here. So we want to make sure we have enough height so that this isn't laying on the ground all crooked like this, you know? So our height's good right there. We're good to go. Our customer wants to mount the charger with a special mount on this stud. So I don't want the conduit coming up straight in the bottom. So we're just gonna knock this out right here, just like that. And then once it's almost loose, you just pry out there like that. So once we have this knocked out, you just take an LB, or if you're coming in the bottom, you can go straight into a connector. Here we're gonna use a chase nipple and an LB. We're just gonna screw this in here. You wanna make sure it's really nice and tight in there so you don't have any issues with loose connections. And then we got that bent, just like that. So in order to bend a 90 to get into here, we need to go from this connector, out, 90 up, and get into here. So what we need to do is we need to find a common wall somewhere that we can get 2 measurements for the 90. So this wall right here is good for that. So that's where it's gonna sit. So I'm at 39 inches right there, okay? 39. Then I'm gonna measure from the same wall over to here, and I wanna measure to the back of the 90, okay? Not to this side, I wanna measure to the back because that's where my measurement's gonna be on my bender. So here I have 59.5 inches. So 39 to 59.5. So that's 20.5 inches is our bend, okay? So the first bend that we wanna do is just a little box offset. So we just take the bender like this. I'm left-handed, so you'll probably be holding it like this. Just bend a little bit, flip it, come down on it. Just needs to be a little box offset. Come down. And what I'm doing here is I'm looking straight down the pipe and down the bottom end of the pipe, past the bender, just to make sure they're lined up and they're parallel. And I'm looking at them and they look great. So there's our first box offset. So here we said we needed a 20.5 inch 90. So take this, put the start of your tape measure at the end of the pipe. You're gonna go 20.5 right here. You're gonna go 20.5 and you're gonna subtract 6. Half-inch pipe is 5 inches, 3/4 inch pipe, 6 inches, 1 inch pipe, 8 inches. That's the take up when you bend a 90, okay? So here, 20.5 minus 6 is 14.5. That's where we're going right there. What the take up means is that this bender itself, this bender is gonna take up 6 inches as you roll it up, right? So wherever you want the back of your 90 to end, you need to subtract this dimension. Actually, it's like this dimension right here, because it's gonna take up that much to get that 90 right where you want it, okay? So we have this. For a 90, we're gonna use the arrow. Every bender has different marks on it. For a 90, it's the arrow. So we have our box offset. We need to make sure that we're bending the right way. So what I do is the easiest way to do this is to line it up as though it's on the wall. So if I look at this, I know that my offset needs to go straight into the wall for the LB over there, and then I need to bend it straight up. So I'm gonna turn this sideways like this. Before I bend it, I like to take a pencil and just scribe all the way around it. No matter what spot on the pipe I am, I can see it. So I know that I need my offset to go out that direction and bend up. So you line this up. You can set it flat on the ground, and then this needs to be lifted up just a hair, and then make sure that your box offset is lined up. And then flip it up, holding pressure back so it doesn't spin on you. Then we got our 90 right here. We just bend it. I like to go a little bit past the 90. It's always easier to bend back than it is to bend more. So I go like that. I put the bender on the end of it, and I just make sure I have a nice 90. And there we go. So the next thing we need is we need to know how high the conduit needs to go. What is our dimension from here? So I always start by putting a connector in. Get this all the way up in where it's gonna go. That makes it easiest for measurements. And then what I do is I find, again, just like we use that common wall to get this 90 right here, I want a common surface that's close that I can get 2 different dimensions off of so I can cut my conduit. So here, I'm gonna use this curb right here. So I'm gonna put this where it needs to be, again, to bottom of 90 from here. So from here down, to where the back of the 90 is going to be. Okay? So I'm going to hold this up where it needs to go. It's about 9 inches right there. So 9 inches to 37 3/4. I always give myself like 1/8 of an inch right here. Play. So this is actually like 37 7/8, but I'm going to shorten it just by 1/8 to give myself a little bit of playroom. So 37 3/4 minus 9 inches is 28 3/4. So that's our dimension. So there's a couple of different ways you can do this. I like to just stand the conduit up, and I put my arm back around it, and I go up to 28 3/4, and I make a mark. I'm going to go just a little longer because I need to do an offset off the wall into that LB. So, got that. We'll take our reamer out. Make sure we ream the end so we're not cutting wires open. Just like this. And then tap it so that any shavings that went down in there can fall out. Right? And then we're going to do our box offset. So again, the easiest way to do this is to hold it up as though it was on the wall. So I want to take this. My first bend is going to be in towards the wall because I need it to go out away from the wall. So the first bend needs to bend in, and then the second bend is going to pull that whole thing out so it goes up and out like that. Okay? So this, you just put it in there, line it up. I'm looking at the top of the shoe with a bender with the conduit right here and making sure that that's lined up. So that's good. I just do a little bend there, flip it over, slide it down, line it up again, and then do the same thing one more time. There we go. That looks good. I bent it a little bit too much, so I want to show you guys how to fix it. So we go right back on that bend. Make sure you're lined up and just pull a little bit of that bend out of there. Flip it back over. Pull a little bit more out of there so it lines up and it fits perfect. So now we just take our connectors, lock them all down. Both sides. Please don't forget to tighten your connectors or couplings. Can't tell you how many times I go back behind somebody else and have to tighten couplings, or we're pulling wire and the conduit just splits apart because someone didn't tighten the connectors or the couplings. So then again, when we're strapping, we want to make sure that we hit a stud. So we already checked it and we know that we got a stud right there. So we want to land that, suck that in. So we got our conduit in now. The next thing I want to talk about is the grounding on this box. So this new receptacle is a lot deeper. So if you see right here, this lug, it's too close. So what I want to do is I take this out. We really don't even need it in there because this ground wire right here, it's already tied in to the box, grounding the box. We did this one time and the lug was in there and it actually shorted out on one of the wires. One of the wires got pinched in between here and it blew up. So we don't want to have that happen. So I just take it out and throw it away. So we're going to pull the wire in now. What we need here is we got a hot, neutral, and ground. So 2 hots, a neutral, and a ground. Now, as far as the size of wire, we need to look in the code. For 50 amps with this car charger, we need a number 6 THHN. Number 6 Romex will work as well, but I don't really like using that unless I have to. So I always like to pull number 6 THHN, although Romex does work. So if this is a new build that you're doing and the walls are open and you want to pull Romex, that's fine. But if I ever wanted to change this receptacle out to an actual level 2 fast charger that needs a 60 amp breaker, number 6 Romex is not going to be sized appropriately. It's only rated for 55 amps. So we would need number 6 THHN. That's why every install that I do, I like to install wire that's sized appropriately for a level 2 fast charger at 60 amps. So we want to do the grounds first. So as you can see, we have a ground here coming from the panel. Then we have a ground that grounds the box. And then we have another ground that needs to tail off. That's going to go to the receptacle. So we want to take all these like this, strip them. These are all number 10. So make sure you use the right hole on your strippers. So number 10, you don't want to score them, get them all messed up. For this specific installation, a red wire nut works. You want to look on the packaging of the wire nut to know what size wire nut to use if you had more wires in here. So for this, we have the red wire nut. Put it on here. Make sure that the wires, I like to get it to where these wires are twisting together with each other, right? A lot of guys yet like to use linemen to do this. I don't carry linemen anymore. I got sick and tired of the weight of them. So I just use my fingers. If you work them long enough, your fingers will get strong enough to where you can actually do that without having to use linemen to twist them. And then I come out, I go with my finger here, thumb out, cut it right there. Strip that out. So this is a part you don't want to mess up right here. So again, we have the ground here, we have the neutral, and then we have the two hots. Okay, we want to make sure it's ground up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get this over here, and I actually want to line this up to where it's going to sit and lean it out a little bit. And then I want to look, okay, I'm about right where I need to be to where that can fold back in and sit nice and easy so that I'm not fighting the wires as I'm trying to push it back in. So what we do here, we just want to get it tight first with a hand set of Allens. Get it in there, and then we just spin it. Now I'm pushing the ground in there to make sure it doesn't slip out as I'm trying to tighten. Okay, and I'm just going to get it hand tight like this. There we go. When I'm done, I'm going to torque all of these to the specs that the manufacturer says that we need to torque these to. But to start, I'm just going to get them tight. So I want to show you, this can really mess you up if all these wires, if you don't train them the right way. It can be really hard to get this thing to push back in there. That's how you end up pinching wires and getting them all messed up to where when you turn it on, it blows up because it shorts out. So I'm going to show you a trick here. So I got this lined up with the top here, and then I just kind of fold this out, and now I can see exactly where those wires need to land. So I'm going to start with my red. Red's going to be over here. Again, hot, neutral, hot, right? The ground's already landed. So this is my black, this is my red, and this is my white. All right, so on the back side, this is black, this is white, and this is red, okay? Black, white, red. So I want these wires lined up nice and neat. I like to do one big service loop in there, and then I know that the neutral is gonna be dead center, okay? So service loop, and then dead center. And I'm gonna hold it there, so if you see the wires wrapped around, the receptacle can go straight in. So now I take this and I line it up, and then I look at it. Right here is where my neutral needs to land. So I'm going to hold this wire here, just like this, and put my thumb where I want to cut it. And that's where I want to cut it, right there. So I'm going to go here, done. And then use your strippers. Don't go too deep because you'll score the copper. Just a little bit around, and then one, there you go, just like that. So there's my neutral. Now I'm going to follow this in to where it's dead center. So if you see, it's sitting right where I want it to go once that receptacle folds in. So I got it here. I'm going to put it in, hold pressure this way as I'm tightening, get my Allen in there, make sure it seats all the way, and get it hand tight. Not too tight because we want to torque it to the manufacturer specs. There it is. All right, so now if you look, as I fold this in, that wire is going to go nice and easy right where I want it, and it's not going to fight me. All right, so there's white. Then I'm going to do red next. So I'm going to come around just like this, all the way around, a nice loop, and then the red needs to be on this side. So I'm going to fold this up right where I want it to go, and then I'm going to hold this up. And where do I want red? Red's up a little higher than white was, so I'm going to cut it a little bit higher right there. Okay, just like that. Come here, little score, wrap around, pull it off. There you go. Tighten it down, nice and neat. And then the last one is going to be our black. So again, we're going to wrap it all the way around. I'm going to cut it right there. And here's our black. Little score, pull it off, just like that, nice and tight. Right there. Get that in there. There we go. So Hubbell's documentation for these receptacles say that using a 3/16 inch Allen wrench, tighten terminal screws to 75 inch-pounds. So my torque wrench is a foot-pound torque wrench, so I need to take 75 divided by 12, and that gets me 6.25 foot-pounds. So that's what I'm going to torque these terminations to. So we got our torque wrench, and we're going to torque it down to the correct torquing specs. There it is. Good to go on that one. There it is. There it is. And there it is. So we got it torqued to the correct specs. And now it kind of looks like a mess right here. But as I go to put this in, I'm gonna be checking to make sure that none of these wires get pinched, and they shouldn't because we trained them properly. We fold these in, get this set, and just slide it up nice and easy, and come down to our screw right there. Just like that. All right, so we're on the panel side now, and I wanted to show you something that is critically important. So if you look at the dead front, you got 4 slots that have never been used. Most would think, oh, that's great. I'm just gonna put my breakers in that slot right there for the car chargers. Well, I'm telling you what, I don't think that's the best idea. Remember, the main breaker's off. All the breakers are off in here, and I've already checked voltage to make sure that everything's dead. Do not do this unless you double, triple, quadruple check that the power's off, okay? Come on in here. So right here, I wanna show you. You see all this buildup right here? Look at that. There's like a buildup, a film of some sort of compound from these breakers never having been used. Over time, these slots, if there's not a breaker on there producing small amounts of heat to protect the busing, it gets this buildup. I've seen it where we put a brand new breaker in and it melts the breaker right here. The entire backside of the breaker melts off. And I think it's due to a bad connection. So you got 2 options. You can clean this off with a bristle brush, something like this. You can clean it off, or you can relocate these breakers down to these slots because most of these are not drawing very much amperage. So you can relocate these. Still, you want to clean them off if you're going to do that, or you can get quad breakers. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get quads. So if you see here, I have a quad 50-30. I'm gonna put that right here where the 30 goes. So this is gonna take that place. The 30s that are on there are gonna land on the outside, and then my new car charger is gonna land right here. So to do that, all we do is we yank this out of here, fold it up, and then if you look here, come look at the busing on here. Look how shiny that is. That's bright and shiny right there. It has literally been protected by these connections right here on the breaker. So we just take the breaker, it has these little hooks on the back side. It hooks onto these slots right here. So you pop it in all the way to the right and push it in. Same thing with this one, all the way to the right and push it in. There you go. I like to go 1 or 2 more times just to make sure that I'm having a really good connection there. Just like that. Just double check that and then take both fingers, make sure that that thing's all the way in there. Oh, look at that. That one was off. Another thing, once I land everything in here, I'm gonna go through every one of these terminations and make sure that everything is tightened appropriately. Because what I don't want is we're messing around in the panel, we're adding circuits, and then I leave and something happens. There's a loose wire somewhere that we didn't see, and all of a sudden I get a call back. So I don't wanna have to deal with that. So I'm gonna go through and as a service to my customer, just double check that all the terminations are tight on the ground bus, neutrals, and all the breakers so that everything is nice and clean. So now I've taken these off of a breaker. You see how smashed that is right there? What I wanna do is I'm gonna cut fresh copper there before I land it on the breaker. Fresh copper, strip it. Fresh copper, strip it. Just like that. The other thing is you really wanna match whatever phasing was on there. So if the red was on the top, even though that's not correct, we want to keep it exactly how it was. We don't want to mix things up from how it was when we got here. So I'm just going to get them hand tight and then we'll torque them later. There's one, and then this other 20 is going to land down here. So this is another critical part right here. You want to make sure that you don't get these crossed up, especially if you're pulling multiple circuits in. So here we added a couple other circuits for something else in the garage, and then he wanted 2 car chargers in here. So we got them both landed. We're good to go. We're gonna turn the main breaker on, check voltage out there, and that's it. All right, so when we check voltage, these two, you should have 240 left and right. Then to neutral, 120, neutral, 120, then to ground, 120 to ground, and 120 to ground. So that's it. Thanks for watching. If you got value out of this video, feel free to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to learn more about electrical installations, feel free to check out the videos right here. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the next one.